All right, so let's talk about defensive players. Let's talk about defensive line. Where do you think the hot free agents are? Where do you think they're going to go?
So the big names in this one, and we're talking defensive ends and defensive tackles, nose tackles, however you want to classify it. And there are a lot of guys on this list. Like this is a massive list. We're not going to go through every single one of them, but there's some good ones here at the top. Frank Clark. Just a few hours before we started recording this, Frank Clark became a free agent. He's not going to be back with the Chiefs, from what it sounds like. The numbers that they were working on in those contract talks, they just couldn't come to an agreement. So Frank Clark is going to be a highly touted defensive end. Fletcher Cox has been with the Eagles. It'll be interesting to see if he goes back there. But testing the free agent market, if he is, Fletcher Cox will be a major get for anybody in the free agent market. Fletcher Cox is one of the best defensive tackles in the leagues and has been for a long time. Robert Quinn, we saw him get traded from the Bears to the Eagles. He's going to be a free agent this offseason. It'll be interesting to see where he goes and if he can have a real impact somewhere. And Brandon Graham is in the same boat, a guy that's been great for a long time. He may be retiring. This is a guy that I feel like may be retiring, so we're not going to really focus on him a whole lot. Javon Hargrave, another Philadelphia Eagle that's hitting free agency. He's a guy that if he's going to keep playing, a lot of guys are going to be looking for a guy like him in free agency, and a guy that we became familiar with, Yannick Ngakoue. This is another defensive end that is going to hold a lot of value in the free agent market. And right underneath him is Jadeveon Clowney at defensive end. So this class of defensive ends has some guys that could be studs and usually put up pretty good stats. But can they be real difference makers is the question. And a guy like Yannick Ngakoue, if I, again, as a Colts fan, if he came back to the Colts, and I'd be interested to see what you think about this. I wouldn't be mad about it, but it's not a guy that I think Chris Ballard should go and pay, 10 or 12 million to. He's more of a defensive end that I'd want somewhere around 8.5 million.
Yeah, so I don't know about value on the contract, but yeah, but that's the rub, isn't it? I mean, you got a guy who's familiar with the organization. You want as much constancy as possible, and consistency, but this guy's looking at commanding a high price tag, and somebody probably will pay it. And that's why, unfortunately, you have to let guys go. Obviously for that reason. So, but on the flip side, who do you replace him with, right? But that's what Ballard's job is. And we could speculate all day long. We could pull out names. We could talk about them. In the end, we have no idea what they're thinking. But I agree with you. I mean, they're trying to reload and rebuild and paying big price tags for guys that aren't just at the top upper echelon of being a difference maker is really hard to do when you're trying to put things back together.
Yeah, and talking about guys like that, guys that you can bring in and change things up right now. Larry Ogunjobi is a guy that's been in Pittsburgh and kind of gets overshadowed by TJ Watt. But Larry Ogunjobi has been very good for the Pittsburgh Steelers and somebody that is going to be a difference maker once they're able to pick him up. Somebody that the Colts aren't going to be able to afford. I expect the Colts, kind of, bouncing back to that. I think, the reason they're not going to go get a guy like Yannick Ngakoue or Larry Ogunjobi or Frank Clark is because, Dio Odengbo came and was able to show in his second season, didn't really play much in his first season, but came in his second season and showed that he can be a guy. Toward the end of the year, he was a menace coming off the edge. So I think they're going to roll with him and Kwity Paye into the future. But then other guys, strolling down this long-ass list, just touch up on some of the guys that we're going to see as big pickups in free agency. Akeem Hicks is going to go somewhere and get a pretty good-looking free agent contract for somebody that's been a veteran and has been in this league for a long time. Sheldon Rankins is going to go get paid by somebody. Marcus Davenport has been a guy that's been making plays in New Orleans for a long time. He's going to go look to get under the shadow of Cameron Jordan, who's been in New Orleans for a long time. So again, this list of guys is massive. We're not going to go over all of them. There are a lot of aging superstars, guys that could be retiring, guys that could come back to play. But we've pretty much touched on all of them. So I think that's going to be it for defensive line.